Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Chuck Bean. Check it out. Oh, there we go. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Chuck Bean. Chuck, how you doing?
Hello, sir. From one Chuck to another. Hope
Yes.
you're having a good evening.
I'm having a great evening. It's the Chuck and Chuck show for the next hour.
So, double barrel Chucks.
That's right. I want to thank you so much for being on Fans with Bands. I reached out to you back when you were on WRIF, and I had like some old CDs of my old band from years ago, and you were kind enough to get those on Motor City Metal or Motor City Riffs and
Motor City Riffs, and I think Midnight Metal. I think you
Metal.
got
Yeah. Got a double play on that. So thank you so much. Yeah,
that was the power that I got to wield as the producer of both shows.
Yeah.
Is that I could move people over.
That was awesome. I thought it would be fun to talk with you because, typically I'm talking to bands and their fans, but you've been involved in the local music scene for a long time, and I thought it would be fun to have you on here and get kind of your perspective. So anyway, thank you so much. I know that before we started recording, that John had a great question. So John, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So anyways, I'm just wondering what does the journey look like after that great career at the WRIF, Chuck?
Well, right now I'm trying to take it a little easy because I had some medical issues over the last couple of months, but thankfully I feel I'm kind of past a lot of that. And I'm getting better every day, which is cool. I don't have any irons in the fire at the moment, with the exception of me and my wife have been talking about doing a podcast ourselves that will be kind of an offshoot of the Nerd Radio podcast that I did for about 8 years over at the WRIF. Be something very similar. We'll talk about nerd stuff like professional wrestling and comic books and video games and stuff, but then we'll also have guests on and find out, like, we'll pick a topic that they're super passionate about. It doesn't just have to be nerd stuff. It could be a band you're super passionate about. It can be a TV show. It can be a movie kind of thing. And then we'll kind of discuss that. And it's going to be called the Really Big Fan Podcast.
Awesome.
So you can follow that right now at Really Big Fan Pod. We set up a Twitter account and a Facebook account. We're on Twitch, which is where the show is going to be broadcast once we get all our ducks in a row, and then it'll be put out on YouTube, and then it'll be put out as an audio podcast too. So that's the only thing I've really got in the works right now. But I'm trying to keep myself open to anything that my skill set is good for, which is obviously audio editing and producing and doing stuff like this.
Yeah, awesome. John, Jay, or Jennifer, do you guys have any other questions?
No, not really.
All right.
I've known Chuck for a couple years now.
Nice.
Just a few. It's funny because Jay is actually the singer in the band that I was in, the Longest Drizzle.
Oh, Drizzle. Yeah.
So are you still up in Standish, Jay?
I am. I'm actually currently sitting in the living room right now, not doing
excellent
anything. just sitting around in the Great White North. Not a ton to do up here, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Lay back. I like it.
Yeah, nice. I did see that, Chuck, that you had been in a band, Drizzle. So which instrument did you play? And I think that was a cover band, right? Or no?
Well, so we did do some covers, but we did a lot of originals as well.
Oh, nice.
I was the guitar player. Jay was the singer. We had a second guitar player. His name was Mike. Our bass player, Ron, recently moved his family to Kentucky and had a house built and is good stuff. And then our drummer, Dave, is still in the area. He's constantly throwing me a text and being like, "Hey, you want to get back at it? You want to get back at it?" And I'm like, I have the time, man. I was at when I was at the station, I was working 3 jobs just trying to hold everything down. So,
man, that's crazy.
Once, if the time ever presents itself again, I definitely would be open to doing it again.
Cool. Because I was going to ask you, are you still playing? But
I try and keep my skills kind of limber. Last year, I decided what I'm bad at New Year's resolutions. So I don't make them like when New Year's hits. I make them throughout the year and then try and get it done. And one of the ones that I made late in the year was I took the first Foo Fighters record and I already knew like 3 or 4 of the songs, how to play them on guitar. And then I started looking up YouTube videos and tablature and stuff like that. And I basically learned every song on the first Foo Fighters record.
Excellent.
Front to back, which was a lot of fun. It was interesting to see how the chords worked, how some of the songs were in a tuning that I never have heard of before. And then there were songs that like I've heard a million times and I really liked, and it was cool to figure out, what the guitar part was like and then learn to play that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So I don't have one for this year yet. So I don't know. It's just maybe I'll pick the second Foo Fighters record or something.
Right. There you go. Just work your way through the catalog.
Yeah, I'll just become really good at playing the Foo Fighters stuff.
So I wanted to kind of back up and learn about like how did you get into broadcasting? What was the motivation for you to start doing that, and how did you get into it?
So around 2010, I had been married to a very nice lady. I'll call her a very nice lady, for maybe like 6 or 7 years, and things were kind of falling apart in our marriage, and so we were going to get a divorce. At the time, I was doing a job where I was driving around the city of Harper Woods, and I would leave tags at people's doors if their grass was too long or if they put the garbage out and it was out for days and days. So I would listen to a lot of the radio, and I would hear the Specs Howard ad, as well as listen to like the Drew and Mike show, or listen to Jay Towers and Bill McAllister when they were over at 97.1 before it was a sports talk station, when they were just kind of doing regular talk. But mainly listening to the Drew and Mike show, there were always producers in the background that were like, feeding them lines and stuff. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I can talk on the radio, but I could do that. And if you could get paid to do that, then I want in.
Yeah.
So I went to Specs Howard and I took the tour, and it sounded cool, and I got the student loan that I'll never be able to pay back. And the 8-9 months that I was at Specs Howard was a blast. It was so much fun. And while I was there, after 2 semesters, they would let you do an internship. And somebody that was in my class, that joined the class, after the second semester, had just finished an internship with Trudy Daniels over at the Drew and Mike show. She was their news person, and said, "Hey, like I can put your name in and get you in." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great."
Right.
So I sent them my resume, and he reached out and let their producer know that like her producer know that like, hey, this guy wants to be in. And then I noticed that she was doing a live event at the Best Buy that was like 5 minutes from my house that weekend. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to show up, and I'm going to be like, hey, I don't know if you've seen my resume, but I, hoping to work with you soon. And I got a call that Monday.
Oh, wow.
She apparently walked in that Monday. I was like, hey, do we have a resume for this Chuck Bean guy? Because I saw him at my Best Buy event, and like he wants in, and we need an intern, so let's do this. I was her intern for probably almost a year.
Wow.
But the producer that she'd worked with said that they didn't want to get rid of me. They didn't want to cycle me out because you had to get up at like 3 a.m.
Oh shit.
So you could get there around like 3:34. The show started at 6. So yeah, we had to get there at 4 and then start watching the Channel 7, Channel 4, Channel 2 news, looking through the newspaper, finding like what are the things she's going to talk about when she comes in. Yeah. And then she would come in like a tornado and like write the pieces, ask for stuff. And it was kind of just like, it was fun to be in the room.
Yeah.
Because like you would get as much done as you could before she got there. And then when she walked in, you would move away and let her start writing what she was going to say when she sat down to do one of her news segments. And at that point, I would, get on my laptop and, we'd be looking at our phones or something like that. And she'd be like, hey, how long has Kwame Kilpatrick been in prison? And you just quickly find that and spit it out so
Right.
that she'd have that information on hand. And then when she would go in to do her news segment, we would continue to monitor what was going on the television news and
Yeah.
see if we could pull down audio that she could play while she was in there. And then we had a way to communicate through text back and forth. And the program we were using is called News Boss. And that was just, it was fun. It was like, you would think getting up at 3 a.m. sounds abysmal, but I tell you, you get up at 3 a.m, and if you can have the energy, your day is done by 11 or 12 o'clock.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Noon.
Yeah.
You go home, you take a nap, and you're good to go until like 10, 11 o'clock until you got to just get up and do it all over again.
Crazy.
But yeah, so, and it was, working at the RIF was like, that was the first thing I did out of like 10 things. Like it was just this like moving up the ladder kind of thing.
Did the the classes and stuff you took at Spec Howard's, did that at all prepare you for when you got into be an intern?
So
I'm thinking of school, like sometimes you take classes and they don't really have an application until you get into the workforce, and then you're starting to do it and you go like, I knew a little piece but basically nothing.
So like any schooling, I would say that the equipment that we were using was definitely not up to date as far as preparation for what you were going to use when you got into the actual job. But I think working or going to Specs Howard was great because it does prepare you psychologically for like one of the things that you need, as a skill that you absolutely need if you're going to work, whether it's television, whether it's film, whether it's radio, a skill that you need, and it's a life skill really, is the ability when something essentially catches fire to put out that fire but keep the show moving.
Yeah.
So, if like we're talking over Zoom right now, if Zoom were to go down, instead of just having a meltdown because, oh my God, Zoom went down, figuring out how do I get this back up and running so I can get this show, I can keep this show on the road.
Right. Right.
And there were quite a few like kind of just life lessons that I felt like I learned going to Specs Howard.
That's cool. And so, from your career at RIF, what was some of the highlights for you? Like, what was of those 10 or 12 jobs that you did there? What do you think was the most rewarding for you?
Probably one of the most rewarding things was one of the last things I was doing, and that was the Motor City Riffs podcast. I felt like I was really kind of, if I hadn't have had the problems health-wise that I'd had over the last months, I felt like I was really starting to get my feet under me as far as interviewing local bands and kind of like exposing the scene. I would hope to a larger audience and getting to know the players in the local scene, which was very fun. I had always thought to myself, if I ever get to interview a band or something like that, like how are you gonna? It's with anybody. Like how are you gonna make yourself stand out? How are you not gonna ask them the same 5 questions they've been asked a million times? And one of the things I wanted to approach it from was that, well, I'm also a musician, so like when you go to a radio station and you're talking to a radio DJ, you're not expecting it to be like, hey, so what gear are you playing? Like how what guitars are you playing? What pedals are you using, kind of thing. So that you're trying to connect with them on a different level, kind of thing. And then I even took it one step further with like, I love working in the studio. So every band that I would have on, I would talk to about like, hey, you've recorded some stuff. What was the studio like? How does songwriting work for you? Because I know how songwriting works for me and for Jay, but everyone's different. So it's interesting to see how different musicians approach the job of being a musician. So doing the Motor City Riffs podcast was really fun. Getting to do Motor City Riffs on Sunday nights was a lot of fun too, because it was like essentially being given an hour and saying, fill it. Yeah. Here's an hour, you got 14 minutes of commercials and you've got 46 minutes to fill with music. So that was really a lot of fun. Even doing Midnight Metal, like I'm not big into metal, so Al Beck, who's the host of Midnight Metal, like he would pick a lot of the stuff, but then he would also, if I threw in like, hey, can we play this Motorhead song? I'm a big fan. Hey, can we play Red Fan by Metallica? Because I really enjoy that song. He'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll find a spot for it, kind of thing. So yeah, getting to do production work was really what I got into radio to do, whether it was commercial production or doing the production on the shows and stuff like that. But I just kind of fell into doing the podcasting and hosting and being an on-air personality. I'd say probably for about 10 months in 2020, I was 7 to midnights Monday through Friday. Wow. How I got it wasn't exactly how I would want to have gotten it, but it was really interesting, especially during that time period. Yeah. To be the guy from 7 to midnight. And you're talking about the middle of COVID, the COVID breakout. Couldn't think of a better job to have than to be in a room by yourself where you only interact with like 2-3 people face to face. Like, I guess I'm safe.
Right. So you mentioned like when you were first thinking about going to Spec Howard, you were thinking, I can do the producer and I'm not necessarily sure I want to do the on-air, but then you eventually were doing more of the on-air stuff. Was that a hard shift for you? Did you feel comfortable doing it? Or do you feel like, are you an extrovert or an introvert? How do you feel that works for you?
I am very much an introvert. I very much like being, I've got my circle, and I like my circle, and then like just having, like I said, I mentioned I have like now I'm down to 2 jobs. But when I was at the radio station, I had 3 jobs, and one of those jobs for the last year or so has been delivering dry cleaning, which is probably my favorite thing to do the last year or two, because like I'm in a van, I'm listening to podcasts or music or whatever, I'm just trusted to be like, hey, here's what you need to do. You've got 3 to 4 hours to get it done. Just go ahead. And that's how I work best. So it was kind of a hard shift. It was weird because I went from interning for the Drew and Mike show to trying to work for Rocket Mortgage, which did not work out because it was a lot of phone calls and I have bad phone anxiety. And then I ended up coming back to the RIF in a promotions gig. Which also was a bit of a feet to the fire moment, because like you've got to interact with listeners at events and go and set the tent up and set the tables up and stuff. And I was like, well, if this is my foot in the door, then this is my foot in the door. And it was, because after a couple of months, Trudy's producer decided to move on and knew that I was on the payroll and was like, just give him my job. Like, he was the best intern we ever had. Just give him my job. And that's what happened. And then a couple of months later, the Drew and Mike show ended up, finishing up. And then Dave and Chuck the Freak came in and they needed a phone screener. So, all right, I'm here. And eventually it turned into, hey, we need somebody on weekends. We need somebody to board op when somebody is out at an event. Hey, we need somebody to do overnights. And then, like I said, it just kind of snowballs into, hey, Screamin' Scott needs 7, his Monday off. Do you want to do 7 to midnight? Okay, sure. And it just snowballed into this thing where it's like, that was one of the life lessons I was talking about when you go to Specs Howard, is don't be afraid to say yes. Even if it's something that you don't quite know that you're ready for, just say yes. The worst that could happen is you mess up and they move you out of that position and put somebody else in it, and it's life. It's one of the things, one of the people that taught me at Specs Howard used to say is like, the great thing about radio is it's not brain surgery. So if you screw up, nobody's dead.
That's true.
That's a good philosophy to have. And it's just in life generally, to kind of like stop and take a minute and go like, if I mess this up, does anybody die? No. Okay. Then let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I always used to say, we're not flying the space shuttle, so it's don't worry.
Exactly. And that's something Jay can attest to. When we were younger, we were in our 20s and I was in the band, that I definitely didn't have that mindset. I definitely had kind of a perfectionist mindset of like, every note needs to be right. Every line needs to be correct. When we play live, it's got to be perfect. And boy, oh boy, did that not work out for me.
No, we got to the point where we were, we'd all kind of agreed, this is, if it stops being fun.
Yeah.
Like, so once we get older, if it stops being fun, then let's not do this anymore.
Yeah. And that was, that's something that I'm sure Jay can attest to as well, is that it is interesting because we were Drizzles together for like 25, 27 years on and off.
Wow. Awesome.
And we would go through phases where like, we would grow apart and we wouldn't practice and we wouldn't have any shows and we wouldn't do anything for I don't know, sometimes years at a time. But then we would come back together and we would try it out. And like, it's fascinating how much different a person you are, even from like your 20s to your 30s, much less your 30s to your 40s or your 40s to your 50s, and how much like little things that used to drive you up the wall now just like don't matter. Like you become almost nostalgic for it.
Right.
Awesome. So are you guys going to get back together then?
I mean, as the four or five of us are still alive, so anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say that I would never. I don't know about like playing shows and touring and stuff because I'm missing a leg
Right.
now. So, but as far as I don't know how to write with anyone else. I really don't. I can't even write effectively by myself because I would write with Chuck and he would just come up with he'd have whatever he had, and I'd be like, all right, what is that? That's at the chorus of the verse. This is the chorus. Okay, keep playing till they stop. And then you do that, and then okay, go to the verses. And I'd be like, okay, don't stop, keep playing until I tell you to stop. And as soon as you say or whatever he was playing, I can't write fast enough. Like the lyrics are coming out of me so quickly that I have a hard. It looks like chicken scratch.
Yeah,
it looks like chicken scratch anyway. But that's I don't know how to write with anyone else. So I mean, I would definitely, absolutely 1000% record again. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
awesome.
And that's going back to doing the Motor City WRIF podcast. That's one of the things that I was fascinated by and why I love, talking to other local musicians is to see like, I know how songwriting works, with me and Jay. How does songwriting work for you? Because everybody has a different way of approaching it. And some are trained how to do it and some just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chuck, how did you get into music? Like when did you start playing guitar and what was the driver for that?
So growing up, my mom played piano by ear.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of cool and fascinating. And it was something that eventually, I think when I was in like middle school, I talked them into buying me a keyboard and just trying to like plunking away at it and trying to figure out how stuff works on the keyboard. And somewhere around the like 1990, 1991 is when I really fell into watching MTV a lot during the summer. And I saw like Faith No More's Epic was a big song during that summer. And the second Bill and Ted movie came out, which was a huge influence as well. So I was like, this is around the time I start buying cassettes at the record store of like stuff that I'm kind of interested in.
Yeah.
And I learned by ear how to play some Faith No More songs, some like Van Halen's, Sammy Hagar era. Sammy Hagar, Van Halen stuff that was like more ballady. I could figure out the keyboards for that and stuff.
Yeah.
I went to somebody's band practice with my keyboard without telling my parents where I was going, and they panicked and got really upset with me. And they were like, look, you can continue to practice with the bands, but why don't you have them just practice in our basement? And I said, okay, sure. And everybody else was cool with that. Right. So, all right, we got a place to practice. And then everybody would just leave their stuff in our basement. So over the next year or two, I would just go downstairs and play with, somebody's guitar or play with somebody's drum set and just kind of figured out how to do it all,
awesome.
on my own by ear. And then, I'm buying up cassettes and I'm listening to music and Nirvana gets huge. And then the next thing I know, like that Nirvana songs are really perfect for a beginning guitarist because like it's all power chords and usually there's a very obvious verse, there's a very obvious chorus. And you can plunk away at it and figure it out pretty effectively. Yeah. And it's just a matter of, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old and you've got a bunch of musical equipment downstairs and you got nothing but time,
right?
You figure it out. Yeah.
Awesome. What was the first album that you bought or cassette?
Ooh, that is so there's two answers really, because there's the actual answer that's like, this was the first one.
Right.
But then there's there was a moment in time, like I said, like when I was in middle school and I discovered MTV, like that was the moment in time where music mattered to me. Because up until then, it was all like the Monkees and Weird Al Yankovic were like a huge, like as a little kid.
Yeah, listening to it.
So I had so I had like every one of Weird Al's albums on cassette.
Right.
I had a couple of different Monkees cassettes. Trying to remember what the first one of those are is impossible. but I think the soundtrack to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey might be like the official right here. This is the beginning mode. This is the moment where
Right.
music is going to matter to you in a way that it did not matter to you before for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I can still remember I remember getting that cassette, and then I think the next one was Faith No More's The Real Thing. I got Tesla's Psychotic Supper somewhere around there. Van
that's a
Halen's
good
For
album.
Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Like it was a real, for the first year or two until I started playing guitar, it was a real smorgasbord of like
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then once guitar became my primary, way to attack music is when I started to really pay attention and lock it down to like, okay, well, Nirvana, the Smashing Pumpkins, Matthew Sweet,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Nice. Awesome. So, John, how about you? What was your first album or cassette or CD?
Excuse me, what was my first what?
Album or cassette or CD that you bought?
Oh, man. I remember in 1968, I was 13 and I bought the free All Right Now vinyl.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that's the first that I bought.
That's a great.
Hey, the one thing that I wanted to say about Chuck.
Yeah,
Chuck
go ahead.
Here is that I'm a big fan. That's why I'm on right now. And he talked about Motor City Riffs, and he threw a couple of my band's tunes out on Motor City Riffs over the last couple of years, and it was just the biggest rush, to have the tunes played and get the exposure.
Yeah.
And that whole concept, that MCR concept was just fabulous support for local bands.
Yeah. What were your bands, John?
Well, it's the same band that I've been in the last 5 years. It's called J2C, blues rock band.
Cool.
We're in Novi, and we play local gigs and have a bunch of tunes out on the internet stores.
Nice. Very nice.
I think my favorite thing about doing the Motor City Riff show was getting to see people post to Instagram or Facebook or something like that when their song got played, and how emotional it would be. Like a lot of people would be extremely excited. Some people would be brought to tears just to have their song on the radio. And somebody that, as somebody that played music for a long time, I understand like getting your song played on the radio is kind of it's a big milestone. And,
Huge.
it gave me the opportunity to sneak my own band in once or twice. So I got to experience it a little bit myself. But no, I think it was almost even cooler to see not only people that I was already friends with that are in bands, but people like John here or other people that would post to their, like I said, to their Instagram. And it's just really the rush of doing it for somebody, if you can believe it, John, is even better than the rush of getting to hear your song on the radio.
That's hard to fathom, buddy. I tell you, because every time you'd play one of our tunes, I'd get my iPhone and I'd go out in the garage and I'd sit in my car and I would video the whole thing looking at the head unit of you sit there and you wait and wait. And then finally you hear, this band out of Novi, J2C. Then you guys, if you said anything like, hey, this band's out of Novi, J2C, come see him at wherever, Uptown Grill or whatever. Then it's like, you start shaking, you get so excited,
That's awesome.
Oh God, it was fabulous. So God bless you, Chuck Bean.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a handful of things I will absolutely miss about being on the radio, and that's top of the list.
Yeah. Well, you can, like you said, nerd out on the new podcast, and yeah. So that'll be awesome too. That'll be fantastic. Jay, how about you? What was your first album?
Mine was not as glamorous. The very first thing that I remember buying was the Rocky IV soundtrack.
Nice.
Because I grew up here in Standish, and it was like you down there. You could back then you could. I'm assuming you could throw a rock and hit a place that carried music. Up here it was very, very limited, and what you got was very, very limited. If you wanted something, you had to go to. There was a place in Bay City back in the day. It was a record store / head shop, and that's where my brother would go and buy all of his stuff at. So I mean, a lot of the music stuff. I like the very first CD I owned was Boston's Greatest Hits, but the very first actual CD compact disc that I bought like on my own was Tool. The second album. I can't remember what it's called. What was
The
Sober?
Inema album? Oh,
No, no,
Undertow.
Undertow. Yeah,
Undertow.
that was the first. That was like the first CD. That was the first CD that piece of music I ever purchased that actually meant anything to me. That I was like, wow, this is.
Yeah.
I like what these guys are doing. I like what this music is. But I cut my teeth on hair metal. So
Oh
I've been
yeah,
playing
me
guitar
too.
since I was 13 or 14. I'm almost 50. So, and I'm still nowhere good as Chuck is. Absolutely
That
not. But I
we have
didn't, I
we have
didn't have to do it for a long time. I just sang in the band when I made that like abundantly clear right from the beginning. I'm like, I don't want to play the guitar unless I have to, and I just want to sing. I don't want to play the guitar.
I would like to say that we have different skill sets when it comes to the guitar.
There you go.
My real
Yeah,
question, Jay. My real question, Jay, is did you get the Rocky IV soundtrack for James Brown's Living in America, or did you get it because Eye of the Tiger was on it?
I got it because of that Survivor song. It's
Oh, yeah.
burning
Yep.
hard or whatever it was. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you see the video and Rocky's doing the training montage, and you know
Yeah.
what? You're a fat 14-year-old kid, and you're like, I'm going to be Rocky.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to get this, and this song's going to motivate me, and it motivated me to eat more pizza. But whatever. It was. I thought it was cool, so that's the only reason I got it, man.
Oh man.
Now whenever I hear Burning Hard, I'm going to be motivated to eat more pizza.
Eat more pizza, man. You can use it. You're pretty thin still.
There you go.
I'm doing all right. I'm getting
You're
back.
in good shape still physically. You look good. So you have more pizza. Have it for both of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
There should always. I mean, always have pizza. Never limit yourself
absolutely.
to pizza. Yeah.
You got to feed your soul.
That's right. That's right. Jennifer, how about you? What was your first album? Are you there, Jennifer?
My first album?
Yeah.
That I ever bought?
Yep.
I can't remember. I think it was I remember being really excited about Bon Jovi.
Oh, nice.
When I was first buying my own music.
Excellent. So Chuck, kind of on that same theme, what was the first concert you went to?
The first concert I remember going to, my parents took me to see Weird Al Yankovic opening for the Monkees. It was three of them. Mike Nesmith was not there, which made me sad because he was my favorite Monkey.
Yeah.
But it was my first concert. It was a pretty good show.
What was it?
It was out at Pine Knob.
Yeah. Davy Jones and what's his
Davy
name?
Jones, Mickey Dolenz, Peter Tork.
Dolenz, yeah, Peter Tork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And now I think Mickey might be the only one left.
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's touring now and he's the only one left. But yeah, that was my first concert. Followed up pretty quickly by getting to see the Moody Blues with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
That was
nice.
that was cool.
Nice. What was the first concert you went to that you really wanted to go to? Like you purchased tickets for yourself? I mean, post Monkees era.
I saw Nirvana the last time they were in Detroit.
Oh no shit! Awesome.
During the In Utero tour, yeah. It was at man, I don't think it's around anymore. It was like the Michigan. No, it was the Michigan State Theater or something like that. It's like I don't think it's open anymore. But it was just like a big friggin' warehouse, and it was so funny because I went down to the floor. My mom took us, I think there were two of us. Maybe there wasn't. Yeah, there was two of us. So my mom took us and we went down to the floor to try and get as close to the stage as we could. And she, like, there were seats up in the balconies on the sides, and she got up in the seats of one of the balconies on the sides. And the opening band was called the Boredoms. They were a Chinese noise rock band. And within one song, I went from the floor. I went and found her up in the stands, and I was like, I'll stay here. Like, it's loud and people are swinging on each other down there. And like, I want to actually see the show that we paid to see. And that's what I did. I stayed up in the thing and I watched, which is funny because like that set the tone for every show I've been to ever since. Like now I don't even try and get as close to the front as possible. Like I walk in the room and I start scouting for like, where's the best place to actually see this?
Yeah.
Like when the Palace was still standing, I went and I saw the Smashing Pumpkins there a couple, like maybe 10 years ago. And if I've got floor and it's someplace like that, I will go to wherever the sound booth is and stand next to the sound booth, because I figure they've got to have probably the best acoustical like version of whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Not thinking that they probably have headphones on so they can hear it from the board.
Right.
But also sometimes they'll have the set list, so you can kind of like glance over and see like, are they playing my favorite song tonight?
Right.
How many songs are there? Kind of thing.
Yeah. And they usually have a pretty good line of sight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So that's typically, like I said, now whenever I go to any concert, it's just like, okay, where am I going to be able to see this the best?
Yeah. Was that the state fairgrounds, maybe?
That's it. The state fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I saw Jane's Addiction there. I remember that place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That was fun. So.
Do you remember who opened?
No, actually,
No.
I don't. I just remember
It must
Jane's
not have been
Addiction.
important.
Yeah. They had these two like stripper poles set up on either side of the stage, and these girls dancing in there, and Jane's Addiction doing their thing, and I think Flea was on bass at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
There was a bar down in Mount Clemens that Drizzle played at that had those like the cages for the dancing girls, and I just set my pedals up in one of them, my guitar pedals, and I just played out of one of them because I'm like, when am I going to get another opportunity to do this?
Right.
The Hayloft? Yeah,
I
probably.
think that was the Hayloft. Yeah, I remember playing there.
Yeah, it does sound like the Hayloft. What was the other place? The Emerald, I think, right? Emerald.
Yeah, the Emerald Ballroom. The Emerald Ballroom was awesome because it looks like where they shot the Pearl Jam Even Flow video.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also so big, unless you're a national band, there is no way to make that room not feel empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never saw a local band there that you couldn't look in a particular direction and just see empty seats.
Right. Oh man. Jay, how about you? What was your first concert?
Oh Jesus! I think it was the first like actual like concert I went to.
Yeah.
Was on Hart Plaza, and it was the guitar player for Triumph. I don't know how I even ended up there. I was with some friends, and we ended up down there, and I was like 17 because up at that point I lived here, and there's no bands here. Nobody comes here really. I mean, and I wasn't trying to go see live bands when I was 16 or 15 or whatever. I was too timid and scared, but it was
Rick Emmett, right?
Yeah, Rick Emmett. That's what it was. Yeah. Was Rick Emmett down at Triumph or at Hart Plaza for some musical festival thing that was going on down there. It was cool,
Awesome.
My first time experiencing something like that.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Rick Emmett's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. There was a ton of people. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
John, how about you?
Same year I bought that Free album. I saw the box tops for $1 at a local church.
Nice.
But more interestingly, I got to tell you, best concert I ever saw. 1974, I was a sophomore at Virginia Tech, and I saw the Who in a small venue. But even more interesting than that, I was 12 when I lived in San Francisco, and I'd sit outside the Fillmore with my buddy, and we'd watch the likes of Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, the Airplane, all those guys walking by us.
Wow.
And I'm a Navy brat, and they all have long hair and beards. And I go, why do they have such hot chicks, with all and then literally like 3 years later, I look just like they did.
Oh man, John, that's awesome. Holy crap. Which so 74 Who would have been like what? Is that Who's Next?
No. I'm thinking Who's Next was 77.
Okay.
Oh no, wait a minute. Who's Next? Oh, you could be right. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember, and like Chuck was talking about the stage, and you get older and you don't want to be, but I was a sophomore in college, so I ran, I was pinned up against the stage. I was right there. There's a bunch of people squishing me from behind.
Oh yeah.
But Townsend was throwing pitchers of beer out on the stage and sliding on his knees, not missing a lick,
Wow.
5 feet. During his slides, he's 5 feet from me,
Oh man, that's awesome. So
yeah, that's
cool.
super cool.
Yeah. Jennifer, how about you? What was your first concert?
I was in kindergarten and I went to a Kenny Rogers concert.
Nice.
Awesome.
Kenny Rogers. Yes.
When I got home, I put my bumper sticker on their car, and it was on there for like 20 years. So now
That's
my
sweet.
bumper stickers. I don't put them on cars anymore.
Did he play the gambler?
Yes, my favorite was Ruben James.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Kenny. Fantastic.
Hey, Jennifer, where do you live?
Shelby Township, Michigan.
Shelby, have you ever heard a band called Alan Turner?
No, I'll check it out though.
Yeah, they're a Kenny Rogers tribute. They do really well. I mean, I'd say Alan Turner, look them up, Steel Horse Band or something. But if you like
cool.
Kenny Rogers, I think you're gonna like these guys.
Oh,
Cool.
thank you.
Awesome. So, Chuck, if you could have a beverage of your choice with somebody alive or dead, who would that be, and what would you want to talk to them about?
Wow. It's funny because my wife and I will have conversations very often about like different bands that we're big fans of or something like that. And there's kind of that, like, you don't want to meet your heroes because you don't want them to disappoint you kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Like I mentioned that I'm a big fan of the Smashing Pumpkins. Billy Corrigan is currently doing a podcast for his new album, his triple album or whatever that's going on. And I'm listening to it and I'm still a big fan, but I also don't think I could maintain a conversation with Billy Corrigan. I just don't, I feel like he would get on my nerves and then I would be like, oh, but I really like his music, but oh my God, I want to strangle him. And then there's also the conversation of like, I was a big fan of Nirvana, but also it's a little bit of a mixed blessing that Kurt Cobain didn't, I don't know, live long enough to disappoint.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not saying I wish that, or that I'm happy that he killed himself at 27 or that he had the problems he had, but also there's that, as your heroes, whether they're musical heroes or Hollywood heroes or something like that, as they get older, especially in this day and age, they're kind of like inevitably they're gonna go super right wing, or they're gonna say something that you're just like
cringe and go, oh yeah.
I don't know that I can listen to my records anymore. I don't know that I can watch that movie anymore without thinking about the fact that guy holds that opinion.
Or they trail off, like, because I was like huge into Metallica until the Black album, and then it just kept progressively getting worse for me. So and I don't have anything against those guys, and they're doing great, but I just feel like, it's like you just feel that. What? Like, why isn't it
Dave
still?
Grohl? Yeah. Dave Grohl.
All right.
I'd sit down with Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl seems like such a genuine dude, and like even if I did walk away from it going like, man, Dave Grohl's kind of a dick. Like, you got to hang out with Dave Grohl. Like, I'm betting that my odds are better that I'm gonna have a drink with Dave Grohl and walk away with it going like, guy deserves everything he's got. What a good dude.
Yeah, awesome. Jay, how about you? Same question. Who would you like to hang out with and have a beer or a soda or a coffee or whatever you like to drink?
Oh, it would be beer, and thinking about the way Chuck answered his questions, I'm a huge country fan.
Nice.
So I possibly Garth Brooks, but what if he's a right wing prick? I don't want to know that. James Taylor. James Taylor is one of my all-time biggest musical influences. He's how I learned how to do harmonies.
Oh, nice.
Was harmonizing with his vocals. So him, but I would have to agree with Chuck. I think it would be Dave Grohl because he just same reason. He just seems like such a genuine, nice guy. I think if you want to get a good feel for how he is, watch the show Hot Ones and watch the episode that he's on. It's great. Yeah. And he gets the host pretty drunk. he keeps making him drink whiskeys and cokes or something like that. And by the end of the episode, Chris Evans, or whatever his name is, the host, is he's drunk and he's hugging on Dave and loving on him and stuff. And I think that's just he just did this barbecue thing where he
I saw that
12 or 16 hours straight or something like that for just to do it because he's a cool guy. I mean, that's really the reason I wanted to get into music.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be this famous guy. I didn't want to be the Stones. You know, I didn't want to be 80 years old out there strutting around like Mick. I wanted to get into music to help people and help other bands, and kind of like what Chuck was doing with, you know, Motor City, kind of getting them out there and finding talent and stuff like that. And I think Dave Grohl has the ability to do stuff like that, and I think he would do that for sure once he's done being a musician or touring and stuff. I think I think he definitely has the power to do it. He has the pull to do it, you know.
I think there's probably plenty of bands that he's done that for, that he's like, he's heard something, he liked what he hears, and he puts them in front of the right people because he knows like these guys got it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I wanted to do. And that's why I look up to the guy and I really admire him, because I think he's got the kind of personality that, like you said, I'm sure he's done that already and would love to do that and would continue to do that, because he understands what good music is, and he sees good music, you know, musicianship from people. And I would have to say probably me, Chuck, and him sitting down, having some drinks, at least a Pepsi or something, you know. Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? And then we would just make him write an album with us.
I'm sure it wouldn't be hard. It seems like anybody that sits down with Dave Grohl and has the ability to pick up a musical instrument just eventually ends up jamming.
That's right.
Yeah. And he's like, well, let's put an album out. Why not? Just, you know, and then I'll barbecue food for people, and then, you know, maybe make a movie or whatever.
Yeah, he'll invite you out to what is it, 606? Is that what it is?
Studio. I think it's Studio 606. Yeah, where he's got that board and everything.
Yeah, awesome.
It would definitely be Dave. I think
Jay was talking about country musicians, and it dawned on me, if it was somebody that wasn't any longer alive, I think it would be cool to meet Johnny Cash.
Oh hell yeah. I'd be a little bit afraid to talk to him because I just wouldn't know what to say to him, because he's such a But
yeah, for sure. I'd ask him how that boom chicka boom drum thing works, because I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Right. Or what was it like being in, you know, Folsom Prison, you know, that show.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. John, how about you? Who would you like to talk to?
Well, I'll tell you after I talk about Dave Grohl.
All right.
So Dave Grohl went to my high school. And, yeah, I told you I was a Navy brat. That's why I was out in San Francisco. My dad was stationed at a Naval Air Station in the 60s. But then when I was 13, I moved to Washington, D.C. He was stationed at the Pentagon. Yeah. And Dave Grohl went to Thomas Jefferson High School, which is where I went. If you ever look it up, it's in the news all the time. It's a magnet school. It wasn't back then. Mm-hmm. But Dave got thrown out of there because all he could do is smoke weed all day, and he just couldn't go to class. And then he had a history of that. He kept getting thrown out of other high schools in Northern Virginia for weed smoking. I'm not sure he ever graduated. Maybe he got his GED or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, so my favorite artist would be Clapton. And not only because of how he, you know, influenced the guitar world and music. I especially loved his stuff when he was with Cream and even before that.
Yeah.
But if you remember the song Tears in Heaven?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he wrote that about his son, Connor, who passed away. He wrote that song. Now, my daughter passed away 1 year before.
Oh, wow.
So when he wrote that song, I couldn't even listen to it. Tears would break. I just turned into a ball of tears, you know. Took me like decades before I could actually listen to the song. But for all he did, that link I've got with him, it'd be Clapton. And I would say, what do you like to drink with vodka, Eric? And that would be it. Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. And he did a lot as far as Clapton, with you know, bringing notoriety to him and God, I'm blanking out on who's this who's the Stones guitar player? Blanking out now.
It's not Keith Richards.
Yeah, Keith Richards. They both they both did a lot to promote the original blues players, you know. And when I saw Clapton's Crossroads in Chicago, like, I don't know, was it 15 years ago, maybe more, 2010, he had like BB King out there and how much BB King loved him, and he had Johnny Winter out there. He had there was another dude, but it was really cool how it would be fun to talk to him about that, you know, like he got into the blues and, you know, those artists that influenced him. That's pretty cool. Jennifer, how about you? Who would you like to talk to?
I would love to talk to Prince. I love the
Nice.
way that he's so creative with his songwriting, not afraid to make new sounds, and he's all about being himself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Prince would be great.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another person I would probably be afraid to talk to though, because I'd be like,
Yeah.
you know, he's such a musical powerhouse. You know, it'd be like, you know, Michael Jackson too. You know, or Stevie Wonder. Those dudes. It's just like, how did you get this good? You know.
Yeah, yeah. It's the kind of thing that like I was saying before about like when you're 17 and you've got a bunch of musical instruments and nothing but time. It's easy to figure out. Like if you're on tour and you've got nothing else to do but sit there and play the guitar, then it's
Right.
not that hard to get really good at it.
No shit. So Chuck, you got the podcast coming up. Any other things in the works? Pretty much the focus.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, I've trying to. I worked at the RIF for about 11 or 12 years, and that's about 11 or 12 years with very little days off, very little no vacations. You're talking like probably 6 days a week doing something.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take it easy. I'm not good at it. So I'm already, putting out applications for jobs and stuff and getting phone calls and setting up interviews. And so, but nothing, I'm just trying to see where the good Lord wants to put me at,
awesome.
at 45 years old. I've been many things in my life in the last decade or so. I got to be a radio personality and that was fun. And maybe it's over. Maybe it's not. We'll see.
Yeah. Awesome. So Chuck, I've just got, first I want to thank you and I want to thank Jay and John and Jennifer for being on Fans of Bands. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I've just got one last question, and that is pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
Oh, you got to put pineapple on the pizza, man. You gotta. So good.
Awesome.
Okay. I'll ask you a question back, Chuck Bean. Would you put marinara sauce on a pineapple upside down cake?
Well, you may think that that's a trick question and that there is a right answer. However, you are talking to a guy who loves sauce.
Oh, nice.
So I would try it.
Yeah.
I would.
I personally can't say that I wouldn't eat it. I don't know that I would put it on the whole entire cake, but I'd be damned if I wouldn't take my piece and dip it in the sauce and try it.
Right.
Pizza is a strange animal for me because I'm lactose intolerant. So I love me some Little Caesars pizza.
Yeah.
But I got to peel the cheese off. I got to do what I call pizza surgery as soon as I get it home.
Yeah.
Get that cheese off of there. So I'm all bread and sauce, man. So like marinara sauce, yeah, I'll try it on whatever I want. Anything you got. Let me dip it in some sauce and see what it tastes like.
Awesome. Jay, how about you? Pineapple, no pineapple?
Preferably for me, I get a pizza. I have pineapple on it, right?
Yeah.
And then I have a bunch of extra pineapple chunks to put on top of that with extra sauce that I'm going to eat and shove into my fat face. And I'm going to be so happy about it. I'm with Chuck on that, man. I'm all about the sauce, man. I could we owned a pizza up here when I was a kid, and we have my father's sauce recipe and stuff that he used, and I could just eat that.
Nice.
With a spoon. I don't really have to have on anything.
Excellent.
So, that's my answer on pineapple pizza.
Nice. John,
thank you,
how about you?
Well, I think the question I asked Chuck was kind of rhetorical in as much as I think you got my answer.
Yeah. I think he's a no.
Yeah, hard no on that one from John. And Jennifer, how about you?
I want my pineapple on the side and my sauce on the side too, please.
So just a cheese and bread.
No, I mean I'll have the pineapple, but I don't want it on the pizza. I just put it in the side.
Got it. So you can construct as you go. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
that
nice.
makes sense.
Yeah. It's a good way to do
proper
it.
ratio.
Right. Awesome. Well, Chuck, Jay, John, Jennifer, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Chuck.
much.
All
From
right.
one Chuck to another. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. All right. Take care, guys.
Take care, buddy.
That's fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Chuck, Jay, John, and Jennifer for joining me in this episode of Fans of Bands. It was really cool to get a chance to talk with Chuck and learn about how he got into broadcasting. We also touched on Chuck's old band, Drizzle. The big news during our chat is Chuck's new project, which is a podcast called Really Big Fan Podcast. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Chuck will be test driving the new show on Twitch, so keep your ears and eyes peeled. See the show notes for all the details and links. These are tough times for everyone in the creative industries such as music. Your support of live streaming, purchasing music, and merchandise is critical. If you can help out your local artists, please do. If you are in the Michigan area, consider following the Playing in the Detroit Area Tonight Facebook page. It is a place for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show and leaving a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.